Hello and welcome to another super special episode of The Sound of Money. In my 100th series, I have a very special guest joining in from Mumbai. He is Mr. R. Kalyanaraman. He is the Managing Director, JM Financial Services, Digital Business Group. Hi, Kalyan, and welcome to The Sound of Money podcast.
Hi, Santosh, and hi, viewers of Sound of Money. Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you and very warm welcome to this podcast. So, Kalyan, this is the 100th series, so we have some really amazing guests lined up on this show, and I'm so glad you agreed to be on this podcast.
It's my
Kalyan,
pleasure, Santosh.
yeah,
My pleasure.
Kalyan, absolutely, most welcome, Kalyan. The most important question I have in mind is, in today's generation, right, the Insta generation that we talk about, I feel very important that they know the CEO stories, right, the campus to CEO stories. Sometimes people look at the reels stories are not as short as those reels, right?
Yeah,
It's a life story. It has those ups and downs, the good, bad, and not so good, and the challenges. And it's all you go through those career challenges. Then it's where the MDs and the CEOs and the heads of organizations are.
yeah.
What's your storyline, Kalyan? I'm sure our listeners would love to know it.
Oh, mine is a very non-glamorous story, Santosh.
So that's the non-glamour story that is all very important for the generation to know.
So if there is, if your viewers are actually looking at some spice or some glamour and some Insta fit stories, and I'm definitely not the guy to be part of this, but uh, mine has been a more a resilient story, more a survival story than a success story. I mean, that's the way I would put it, because I was born in. So, is it okay if I take 5 minutes to describe my story?
Of course, definitely. That's what we want to know. And the reason I asked you, Kalyan, is that today's generation, as I said, they need to know what's the story behind the success, right? It's not Insta, right? It needs
Yeah.
that. That's exactly what when we want to, share with them.
So, I'm actually very proud of my non-glamorous story, or a very simple story, and I I unfailingly go back to where I started from, because that kind of keeps me open and humble and transparent, and obviously not losing the fun part of this beautiful life,
Yeah.
because we generally tend to get very sucked into what's happening around and kind of get pretty influenced by the not so good happenings than the ones that we can really get inspired by or inspired from.
Yeah.
So I was born in a very nondescript small town in Bombay called Thakurli,
Yeah.
which is about 30 minutes by train from Thane.
Yeah.
Right. And I was born in a 310 square feet home with five of my siblings and my parents. That's how we started. And on caring and sharing, that people generally have a very glamour attached to caring and sharing. The first lessons were when we actually had to stand in a line to fill water in our cans.
True.
To a point that, very crudely put, we did not even have washrooms in our house. It was a public washroom that we had to actually use.
Yeah.
And obviously, me and my siblings, we used to stand in the ration ki qatar for our pulses, and for filling up the kerosene. I don't know how many of these young kids.
Those days, very difficult.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nobody would probably currently born 20 years ago not know what a kerosene is.
Exactly.
But and I've seen my mom using 4 stoves to cook, and in a small nondescript kitchen.
Yeah.
But beside all these stories, Santosh, what really made us happy was we understood the power of sharing, we understood the power of adjustments, we understood the power of inspiring each other, and not for once, despite the financial challenges, did we ever have an underprivileged life. Because we were always fed well despite the challenges.
Yeah.
And the simple things that inspired us was that in those days you did not have beyond your family to be inspired by, because everybody kind of sailed in the same boat, right?
Yeah.
So me being born in a large family was a boon, a blessing for us, because we actually learned the power of understanding we learned the power of coexistence. And while we had those challenges, Chhat se,
Funny,
Pani
yeah,
Patna,
yeah.
yeah, I know I still remember our good old Usha fans, which never ran
Mm,
properly, right, at
mm,
night. So me and my siblings used to take turns in kind of making it round and round
yeah,
for it to run. I mean,
yeah.
as we speak, I can clearly visualize the color of the fan. It's
Mm,
so vivid in my memory right now.
yeah.
And to a point that when I took my kids the
Mm,
first time to my first old house, they were
yeah.
actually aghast, saying,
Mm,
"Dad, did you start your life from here?" I said, "Yeah."
mm, yeah.
So for me, those were basic life lessons which
Yeah.
remain in my heart, and those inspire me.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying it inspires me is that we have dealt consistently with challenges. We have
Yeah.
dealt consistently, and the whole idea is not to kind of dramatize this whole conversation.
True.
We've learned with every setback and said, "Can we do better? Can we do? Can we try harder one more day?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I was 15 when I lost my dad
Mm,
suddenly, and
mm,
I'm 53 now, so I have lived more without him than with him.
mm,
But having said that, those inspirations always, I still remember he would go on a weekend to from Thakurli all the way to Baikala to buy vegetables for the
yeah.
entire week.
Yeah.
Uh, Come to think of it, how many would even today have the energy to be able to do it?
Yeah.
Entire weeks. And my mom, we would have guests for coming into our
Yeah.
houses
Those
practically
were the
every
days,
week.
right? Those were the days.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I know my mom would somehow manage the kitchen. My
Yeah.
sisters would somehow manage
And
the kitchen. And
unannounced guests, I'm very sure, right?
yeah, man, I found it. I mean, as we speak, I find the whole thing so daunting. How did they manage budgets
True.
when we make so much of you and cry about?
Yeah.
I keep reading these stories of people having 200,000 rupees of income and still
Yeah.
fighting, hand to mouth. I said, I mean, it's intriguing because
True.
we still managed, and
Yeah.
and my parents ensured that they give us all the values
Yeah.
needed to be relevant and needed to be good.
Yeah.
So I did my schooling in Dombivli. I did my
Mm,
college in
mm,
SIS Matunga. I'm musically inclined,
yeah.
so I chose those colleges because I could get closer to music,
Mm,
and I started my career in Asian Paints. In the interim, after my stint in ICICI, I also did my part-time MBA from ITM Mumbai,
mm,
and my capital markets journey started with Sher Khan in the year 2000,
mhm.
and I stayed there, being part of the building team for
Yeah.
25 years, and then took a sabbatical, and then joined JM Financials about
Yeah.
9 months ago, and trying to do my bit in the digital piece. But
Yeah.
in this whole piece, what kept me going
Mm,
was absolute satisfaction that from what I do.
yeah.
More importantly, the fact that I can get to meet different people, learn. I mean, that's one thing that I keep telling my kids as much, that uh, be open to learning and
Mm,
don't be afraid to make mistakes.
yeah.
And I think these two are the most important things that I think. And third most important thing is kindness. If you can
Yeah.
continue to be kind,
Yeah.
I think the world is beautiful. Yeah. So
True.
this in a way, Santosh, sums up my journey, if
True.
that helps.
Absolutely. Beautifully put, Kalyan. And I
Yeah.
have two questions to it, two parts to it. The first is at at every point in time, at that point in time, and especially the teenage years, right? When the
Yeah.
struggle there, the local train of Mumbai
Yeah.
going up and down between a Matunga to back to Dombivli and then Thakurli, rest finally for the day. And you see your struggles. What was that inspiration, that you say, okay, aaj to karna hi hai, got to get it going so that someday in life it all. And at that time, we didn't have a social media, right? We struggled on our
Yeah.
own. It was the
Yeah.
good old
Yeah.
Doordarshan. And
Yeah.
then you had your own community. It was not the Facebook, but the faces of your friends that we met each
Absolutely.
other. How did
Absolutely.
that whole ecosystem encourage you, inspire you, if you kind of recall?
Oh, I mean, I remember this very, very clearly. It was pouring something like June and July.
Mm,
The rains were impossible, and as a college student, by mistake, I got into the luggage compartment, which had vegetable vendors and fisherwomen, and somehow they found this young boy and they were gracious enough to allow me
Let
to
you
sit
in.
in one of those seats, right?
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
and I heard their stories,
Mm,
and I said, God, I have nothing to complain. I mean, I can still go back and say 310 square feet, 8 people together, dad doing his best, mom doing his best, siblings supporting each other. But the stories that I heard in that luggage compartment,
mm,
uh, I mean, after hearing that, I got down at Hakurli and I said, boss, God has been kind. And the stories were like the fisherwoman getting up at 4 in the morning,
mm.
going all the way to pick up fish
Yeah.
from the relevant market. The vegetable vendors, those days we did not have APMC in Vashi. One had
Mm,
to go all the way to Baikala. And
mm,
then they would do an up and down, and they would go all the way to Badlapur and Karjat. And I mean, and to be able to do that 7 days a week
mm. Yeah.
without complaining, because that, and you miss one day, you actually are not in a position to be able to feed your family.
True.
So imagine this schedule for 365 days, and then you have those. And I didn't find them disheartened by this
Mm,
process of 365 days of hard
yeah,
toil.
yeah.
They had their own bhajan singing happening, and
Mm,
and they had their own fun, and they shared their lunch.
yeah.
And that actually gave me the adrenaline that was required, because I said, if they can, so should
Mm,
everyone. It
true.
was not only me.
Yeah.
I said, if they could find smiles in so much of toil,
Yeah.
and sometimes, rains
Still
can,
find life satisfying, right? I mean, very
oh
difficult.
man,
Very easy to think about it and talk about it, but going through is not easy, right?
it's not easy. And to be able to go through the mental turmoil as much as physical,
Yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Uh, and to be able to get up the next morning and saying, yes, I had that, and still get up and go through the grind and come back
Yeah.
and still find happiness. So you found all these people happy, chatting,
Yeah.
speaking about their villages. That's what is the incident that will never leave my memory ever. And that's what
Absolutely.
inspired me.
Yeah. That is very, very interesting study that was done a couple of years back. I recall reading. Apparently, the most highest number of engineers in around India, if you look, it's coming from Dombivli.
Yeah,
Because and there was a study done as to why that. Why is it so? No, it's not about. It's not that they were of course they were brilliant, right? The kids were
yeah,
brilliant,
yeah,
but the kids have seen the struggle
yep,
of the mom waking up at sometimes even at 3:34 in the morning,
yep,
trying to for the dad to catch that CST local at whatever time in the morning, maybe catch that Pola Bhakri, the Kendra somewhere
yeah,
on the way, right? And we are talking of days when your KDMC or your auto rickshaws were not as many. You have to literally
absolutely.
make your way through. So the struggles have seen. And then it was that zid, right? We kuch bhi
Yeah,
karke agar. And they're really doing well across the
yeah,
world.
yeah,
Amazing, right? So I can completely resonate with what you're saying. Because I do
yeah,
have a
yeah.
cousin of mine who, really very, very well doing in San Jose. But the
Okay.
struggle that the parents have gone through, I think that's more important. And I'm
Yeah,
so glad, Kalyan, you mentioned about this because
yeah,
the generation today, and that takes me to the second question. The generation today looks at it, oh, you're a CEO, an MD, a director, blah, blah, blah. But the underlying struggle which has led to it, and I think it's not just that, right? It's not the designation also, the hard work,
yeah,
of course, but I think there are certain challenging decisions in life as a profession that you take. And I
yeah,
think they are much more cushioned, if I have to use that word, because you've gone through that rigmarole, you've gone
yeah,
through the pain days. So it
yeah.
becomes you're more strong-headed to take those. Is that something that you would agree?
Yeah, totally, totally. I mean, which is why I keep telling people, in all kinds of forums and internally when we meet, is that
Yeah,
never forget where you come from,
yeah,
and never forget the family that took care of you, right?
mm,
Because if in doubts, and you will have those days, whether it's on more so in leadership positions, you will always come across days where you kind of figure out, I mean, doing the right thing, right? Because the margin of error is pretty limited.
mm,
And on those days, you go back and think, okay, how would this have happened
yeah,
had the situation been different, right?
yeah,
And then it kind of reinforces the belief that, yes, so long as the intent is right,
mm,
so long as you treat your colleagues, your peers with utmost respect,
yeah,
right? And kindness. And more importantly, please don't take your designations seriously. I mean, that's
yeah,
something that I keep telling a lot of people. I mean, you were so nice enough to introduce me as an MD and CEO and stuff like that. But frankly, Santosh, all of us are primarily born
Yeah.
good human beings,
Yeah.
and it's up to us to protect the goodness, because
Correct.
you, when you're born, you don't have any malice, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have any hatred in your heart, and you're
Correct.
and most of us are lucky to have a proper upbringing despite the challenges.
Yeah.
So those things which held you there when you were a kid,
Hmm.
I think some of those qualities, यानी आपके अंदर के जो बच्चा है वो कभी मरना नहीं चाहिए.
So,
I mean, you should always maintain that, because that's what keeps you going when you grow old, when you have
so
gray hair like me.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I think that's something that people need to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's something very interesting you mentioned, right? And recently with the success of Skyroot, right? And there was this interview of Pawan Chandana,
Yeah.
and he was asked, how was it when you interacted with your parents, right? The first call that he picked. He said
Yeah.
when he called, his dad was on the call, and his dad just burst out. There was
Yeah.
no conversation, but
Yeah.
that, because it's such an amazing moment, right? And that you've struggled also, and the kids realize, which is so important, right? Because today's generation, on one hand, yes, you do see amazing, inspiring stories, but on the other hand, unfortunately, with the social media coming in,
Yeah.
they take it for granted, and we have been seeing this in the last few weeks.
True.
So I think it's a lesson. I wanted to ask you, the first time you took your kids to that Thakurli house, what was going in your mind? Because they were, of course, they saw that, and they were, I'm sure, equally, completely startled as to see what
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
about, right? But what was the intention you had in mind to take them to that particular house?
Okay, the intent was very clear, Santosh. When I mean, we lead a pretty good life, right?
Mm,
No?
yeah,
Having a stable, lovable family around
yeah,
is a big blessing, and this cannot be translated into a net worth statement in a balance sheet, right?
mm,
I totally value the closeness of my wife, my
mm,
kids, and the
mm,
fact that we really feel for each other, right?
yeah,
And
correct.
it's not something that we express every day,
Mm,
but I know for a fact that if I have a health crisis,
yeah,
my wife and kids will rush to help me, right?
mm, mm,
Now, just going back, as I said, we lead a very privileged life, and I wanted to also kind of somewhere subtly, not sound preachy,
mm,
because I'm also kind of conscious of how the current generation reacts to any preaching, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I wanted to kind of do a little bit of demonstration
mm,
of how far me and my wife have kind of, I mean,
so,
just
yeah,
to add, my wife has also kind of been born in a very underprivileged kind of
mm,
setup, right?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
very privileged, and then
yeah, yeah,
so given that, we decided that we'll take them and just help them see what we went through, and
mm,
that was the house that me and my wife started our lives to, right?
mm,
So the intent was not to sound preachy, but the intent was to make them realize the power of gratitude,
yeah,
the power of feeling blessed.
mm,
And I think to a great extent we achieved that objective, primarily because when they saw it, they came and hugged us saying, well, this is not something that we were prepared for. And
mm,
I think my day was made that day,
yeah,
when the kids realized that yes, the the sheer struggle that me and my wife actually went through to be able
yeah,
to today confidently say that we lead a privileged life.
yeah,
That privilege has been a 25-year journey. So
absolutely. Yeah, I
when it
can
happens
completely
that
understand.
long, 25 years and 300 months, it's something close to 10,000 odd days. It's not something that happens. You sometimes lose patience, you sometimes lose faith, and then you
So,
still keep coming back and fighting and saying, let's look at the larger good.
yeah,
That visit of ours really helped my kids understand the power of gratitude beyond
wonderful.
anything else. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful to know. So, that takes me to the next question, and this is more from a organization standpoint or
Yeah.
today's market standpoint, but a very different tone. Today, thanks to the democratization of investments, the way mutual funds have come in, the markets are
Yeah.
doing. Post-COVID, of course, where people started investing, it is now seeing that the Bharat also is investing. It's gone beyond the Mumbai's and the Bangalores and the Delhi's,
True.
right? The tier two, tier three, and equally thanks to the mobile phone, the
Yep.
awareness is equally important. But my question to you is that whilst the tier two and tier three are first-time investors, what are the kind of cautions one needs to take? Because we also equally hear of horror stories of kids, actually kids investing in futures and options, neither there is a future nor there is an option in life for them, right?
True, true.
So have you come across such stories, and how does one really navigate through this? Because one is the kids don't know, they get so easily influenced by the social media, the influencers, but who suffers are their wives, their parents, their children, because they put all their money. And that's
Yep,
futures and options is just one part of it. And
yep,
some people have decided, okay, too much of work, let me get full time into investment. And this is a
yep.
generation, just like unlike you and we haven't seen the 1992, the 2008, right? How would one navigate with your own experiences? What would your piece of advice or suggestions would be for them?
Very aptly put, Santosh. So, see this. If I look at investors who entered the market in the last 6 years,
Hmm.
they haven't seen a market carnage that you and I have,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where people actually lose their life savings in one trade,
true.
right? Most of the new investors who've come in during the COVID and post that too, they haven't seen the carnage. Yes, obviously, the West Asia crisis kind of gave them a sense of what a market volatility could do.
Hmm.
So my submission to the investors and traders is please don't treat investments as a tool to get rich overnight.
Hmm.
There is nothing called getting rich overnight. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
some may actually get first time lucky, right? It's like in a poker table, a couple of people out of a group of 10, they may get lucky and suddenly they may start getting a sense that, you know what, I've cracked the code.
yeah.
It doesn't happen. At least in the 25-year journey that I've seen, you never get lucky the second time
Hmm.
or maybe the third time. So first and foremost, have your risk appetite in mind.
Hmm.
And when I'm saying risk appetite, I need to bloody well know that if my money has to grow, it can also degrow, it can also depreciate,
Yeah,
right? So
true.
that's the first ground rule that I would put to any wannabe or a new investor or even an investor who's been in the system for long.
Hmm.
Second, please don't treat futures and options as most of the influencers and whatever we see in the social media.
Hmm.
The one common line that I keep hearing, it slowly kind of disappeared, but I used to keep hearing very often is that when you play in options, it's limited downside and unlimited upside. I mean, I think this kind of a misinformation, right, is actually pretty unfair
Hmm.
to the audience. There
Hmm.
is nothing called limited downside. I mean, if you have a downside, you have an upside. But if your downside is limited, so is the upside, and there is nothing called unlimited upsides in life.
Yeah,
I mean, had it been so easy, uh, people would be sitting at home and doing it 24,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
So please don't have unrealistic expectations about your investments or your trading habits. Yes, does equity pay? Yes, I've been the one of the biggest beneficiaries, if I may say, but it's only because I have been an investor for 25 years.
Yeah,
And I have
patience,
seen the
right?
2008 Lehman. I
Hmm.
have seen the 2004. I have seen the 2011.
Yeah.
And I have seen my portfolios getting eroded and still believing that this is the investment to be in.
Hmm.
But I would like to state that I don't put 100 rupees, all the 100% of my investable surplus in equity. I never do that.
True.
And
Yeah.
so you need to kind of spread your risk. You put some amount in debt, some in gold, some in equities. Maybe you can have your capital dissected between what you do for investments and what you do for your trading. But
Yeah.
please keep a downside.
Hmm.
Please have understand your risk appetite. It's as simple as that. If I have to learn driving, I will probably know on the first day that I might just bump into someone. So I really know my risk
You know
appetite,
what?
right?
Correct. Yeah.
I tend to be very cautious. Second example is that if I need to buy a television, right,
Hmm.
I would probably ask 50 people before I actually go. And I mean, these days we also see a lot of reviews
Yeah.
on the online platforms before we do. But when it comes to investing in equity, we blindly go by, okay, my friend told me, so I bought
Hmm.
it,
Correct.
which I find is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Please have, like for your health, you need a doctor. For your financial wealth, you need an advisor who doesn't mean commissions. He or she means good for you for the long term. And that's when you actually get into a conversation. So equities, this entire investment universe is not about get rich soon or get rich overnight. It's about judiciously
Yeah.
engaging throughout the process of financial planning, where you have a realistic upside with a very clear cut understanding that it could be a downside too, but you are prepared to play that risk. I
True.
mean, that's how simply
Yeah.
I think we should play.
Absolutely. And and I'm sure since you've seen this in the last 25 plus years, this journey, I'm sure you have interacted with lots of investors across India.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you see a significant change in the behavioral patterns, be it offline investing or the digital platforms that are now in play? What's the kind of behavior? What kind of, uh, in terms of ladies participating in, for that matter, students participating, senior citizens sometimes investing all of their entire pension into that.
Yeah.
What's the kind of flavor that you have seen or experienced in the last few years?
See, I see the flavor which is both good and bad. So let me try
Yeah,
dissecting the.
yeah,
So the good part is a lot of women participating in
yeah,
the financial planning and the financial journey, which I think is pretty heartening. It's a great thing to do because I'm not sure. 25 years ago, we had the luxury of a lot of women participating,
mm,
thanks to smartphones and cheaper data plans and so many optic fibers going under the sea.
yeah,
You have uh, 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 one of the fastest internet providers happening in this country, right? So
mm,
from that perspective, you have the universe, you have the infrastructure in place for you to participate in equities pretty easily as opposed to what it was 3 decades ago.
true, yeah,
And hence, I see no wrong when I see a lot of women participating. I see a lot of senior citizens participating. I see a lot of kids participating. So I think it's a step in the right direction because the more the financialization of your savings, the more the discipline. I mean, the way I see it is that I was not tuned to understanding investments when I was their age today,
yeah,
as a teenager. But today, the teens or the women or the senior citizen, the three groups that you just touched upon,
mm,
they understand the basics pretty well because of the kind of exposure that we have.
yeah,
Now, this is the good part. And the not so good part is my father was not rich. My
mm,
kid's father is. That's
that,
the syndrome,
mm,
right? So with that syndrome around, I see so many people taking risks beyond their financial capability
yeah,
and with great deal of lack of understanding.
yeah,
So people get inspired by one solitary success story,
mm,
and behind that one solitary success story, a lot of people who actually appear on the social media, they're also pretty unfair in not sharing the failures.
correct,
I think what gets laminated is the success stories and beyond, and that primarily is the reason why we tend to selectively listen to that and say, if that can be applied in my life, can
mm,
I also have the same kind of
yeah,
journey?
yeah. You
So
can't have
this
a template. This is not a template.
this cannot
Absolutely,
be a template because the way I invest could be very different from you. It could
absolutely,
be very different from my wife and my kids. So, dude, please understand what you're getting into,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Understand that if the money has to grow, it will also degrow. And are you prepared to play the waiting game?
yeah,
So, while on the one side, having a lot of people participating, and if you see the kind of numbers, right? Clearly, the financialization of savings is happening in this country, and to a
true,
great extent, whatever monies are getting pumped by people and you and me and the next gen
yeah,
is the reason why market bhi tika hua hai. So with all kinds
yeah,
of foreign investments going away by now,
yeah,
the nifty levels
absolutely,
could have been quite awry from what it is right now.
yeah, yeah,
While I appreciate the trend of people investing in money,
mm,
I really don't appreciate the fact that they actually believe that 1 month of me hardcore training and
yeah,
trading would actually
yeah.
be, I'll attain nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah,
It doesn't happen.
true.
Let the myth be broken.
True, true. In fact, when it comes to investing, investor awareness, right? While AMPI, SEBI, the exchanges, and there are so many Nivesh camps, Kumbh Nivesh, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Every stakeholder, including the regulator, is making a lot of effort on the ground, including tier
true,
two and three,
true.
banks, mutual fund houses. But in your view, what is it that that's one thing that can make investing more accessible more transparent, and more importantly, intuitive for a generation of investors?
See, the first two things is anyways happening. If I look at it being accessible,
Yeah.
if you look at the number of demat accounts in the last 25 years and the acceleration, the proliferation that you see in the last 5 years, you clearly see that we have arrived. Even if you look at indirect investments from mutual funds, 35,000 crores of SIP hitting the market every day. Every month these are crazy numbers, absolute crazy numbers. So from accessibility perspective, if you see your investments are not coming only from the so-called top tier cities, it's coming from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 MAUs and a lot of villages. So from accessible and with smartphones and internet plans, there is never a dearth of whether I get this information or how fast do I get this information. The only difference is how do I best make use of
that information. Crunching that information is now the key.
So just answering that last point, how do I make it self-intuitive? I think beyond the media noise, it also calls for a lot of individual discipline. I think please don't go by what the media says all the time, because they may not come up with horror stories, but you need to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff. You should say, okay, I know of the story of somebody making 5 times over in the stock in 1 month, but can I also understand how? And can I also probably dig deep and figure out whether the statement made in the social media is true, or it's laced with some commercialization, because understand So I think the accessibility is taken care of. The whole knowledge book, the library is available with you at the click of the button, and there are plethora of apps which will tell you what to do and what not to do. The onus actually is on the person, because you need to be able to say, okay, I figure this out, but this is going to be my individual plan. And then you stick to it. You stick to your plan. You keep looking at your plan. It's like your health check, right? You keep checking, right? So keep doing that, because it is as much the individual's responsibility as it is the financial world's to be able to do this journey together.
In fact, what is very important nowadays is the role of technology and AI. Right? There's no space left that AI hasn't, unless it's conscious, which I guess at some point in time, even we may be out there. So, in terms of technology and AI, artificial intelligence, are changing investing and customer experiences. Are they really impacting that aspect, and how?
The journey has already started, right? Now there are two aspects to it. One, a lot of these companies are pretty cautious about the investments on AI, because if you look at the kind of investments in the traditional developed market like the US, right? You see billions of dollars getting pumped, and you are beginning to see the offshoots of all of this right now. But has the benefit kind of emanated in its full-blown avatar right now? No. So there is a lot of cautious optimism as far as the investment world getting the AI plugged into it. There is a lot of cautious optimism. Having said that, there are small pieces that is beginning to fall in place in terms of can I kind of create a nudge for you when I see that your risk appetite and your trading patterns don't match. Can I tell you in your face, dude, you're going ballistic? Something like that. Now those are obviously and for all you know, your research preferences, your stock preferences, your asset class preferences could be very different from mine, right? When we start the journey. So now I'm beginning to see those trends where things are very specific to me, very customized to me, beginning to be shown to me, right? So those are the nudges that I'm seeing happening. While it is not kind of full blown, but knowing the power of technology, it will just take some time for us to actually have customized individual plans suited to my requirement, my personality, my goals, and my time horizon.
You're suitably suitability assessment is one that needs to really
Absolutely.
introspect, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the financial participation in Bharat, right, and we're looking at it from a long-term standpoint, and India is what India is or has to offer, be it demographic
Yeah.
dividend or the massive size and scale, right?
Yeah.
And of course, with other countries having their own challenges,
True.
uh, where do you see, if you were given a crystal ball, where do you see this heading in terms of investment patterns?
Oh, this will only proliferate, Santosh. I have zero doubts about deeper penetration of
Hmm.
democratization and financialization and digitization of
Hmm.
savings. I have
Hmm.
zero doubt.
Hmm.
I mean, these were the kind of numbers that we used to speak 25 years ago, saying eventually you become a developed market if you have 15, 20 crores of demat accounts, eventually became 30, 35
Yeah.
crores. That
Yeah.
we see it happening.
Yeah.
I've been in the market where SIP as a concept started, and people, all AMCs and distributors together, they celebrated when the first time the
But
market a 500 crore SIP book in a month.
yeah,
And today we are talking about 35,000 crores.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm already seeing that happening,
Hmm.
right? And it can only go better.
Yeah.
And what can accelerate it? I think scholarically, if I look at how financial planning gets taught in schools and colleges,
Hmm.
except if you take it as a part of electives,
Hmm.
a lot of schools still find inclusive financial literacy
Hmm.
a taboo topic.
Hmm.
This is something that your parents will take care of,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Or your elder siblings will take care of. So I think somewhere we need to start including that as a part of your
Yeah.
school curriculum
Yeah.
by force.
Yeah.
And once you do that, I think when you start young, your ability or willingness to make mistake is much higher. So
Hmm.
you make your mistakes, and then when you grow, you kind of grow a lot more saner.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True.
Number two, number three, critically, I think the entire ecosystem is geared towards it.
Hmm.
It's just that um, maybe if I just take an event like the West Asia crisis,
Hmm.
it kind of such events actually put some kind of self doubt,
Hmm.
temporarily.
Yeah.
But then I'm a total bull as far as India is concerned.
Hmm. Hmm.
I am whatever I am because of my country,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I will exhort people to invest and think
True.
India long term.
Yeah.
And if this country does very well,
Hmm.
equities have to do well. And if equities have to do well, start your journey today. And
Hmm.
I think the proliferation journey has already started. It's just a
Absolutely.
matter of time before we kind of be at par with the developed world, at least in terms of the penetration of financialization. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, now my next question is around professionals who are in probably their, not, I would not say early start, but somewhere midway there and looking for challenging careers ahead, be it in that same firm or maybe different. And then look forward for that kind of channeling their thought process. So, with your experience, you've been in this industry for 25 plus years. What can young professionals and future leaders should know about their career growth? What should they be a bit cautious about? And more importantly, resilience and leadership. What are those maybe two, three, or 4 points one needs to really bear in mind? Generally, typically, you think that end of the day, it's one's own personality makes that all this things. But what have been your learning?
So, multiple things, Santosh. First and foremost, always be a listener.
Hmm.
I mean, that I think is one good trait that every human being has to definitely have.
Yeah,
Please
yeah,
be a good listener.
yeah.
Second, critically, never stop learning,
Hmm. Yeah.
because this is something that will be a weapon for me all through my life.
Hmm.
Never stop learning.
Hmm.
Three, with leadership comes humility. With leadership, it is not powerful, it's
Hmm.
humility.
Hmm.
I have seen so many leaders not losing their humility.
Hmm.
And I have also seen so many of them
That's it.
losing the other way around the moment they take up leadership positions. So, dude, you are a human being
Yeah,
with average skills and slightly better execution skills, period.
yeah.
So let's not put, which is why I know I mentioned that, let's not take our designations too
True,
seriously. Yeah?
true. Yeah,
You need to ensure the humility and kindness that you have endured, or you have been a part of, or you benefited from, which
yeah,
is why you are wherever you are.
yeah, yeah.
You can't lose out because you've got an ex corner office.
True.
So I think these three, and fourth, most important thing is please don't be technologically naive. You can't say, I have been in the offline world.
Yeah, you got to
This is how
adjust
I
to
have.
it. Yeah,
You cannot be naive technologically. You need to be part of that, because all these personality traits will help you. But the conversations related to technology, you can't keep going back to the chat GPTs and cloud to understand. You need to keep reading often.
stay updated, relevant.
I mean, that I think, I mean, if we kind of just follow these 3-4 principles, and please have that sense of gratitude. I think leaders need to have that sense of gratitude for people above them, and for their peers, and for the team. They need to have that sense of gratitude, and also kind of state it, right? I'm thankful
Stay
to people.
grounded. Yeah, yeah.
Please keep thanking people often, because it's a generous way of getting it back. The dividends are pretty rich, and it's proven.
One last question before I let you go, Kalyan.
Yeah.
What's the day like for Kalyan and his family on a weekend?
On a weekend, so
Are you completely out from work, or is there some one laptop email to reply, or how is it?
no, last 10 years at least, I unless it's unavoidable, and I think out of 52 weekends or 104 weekends, I would have probably worked 1 or 2 weekends, right? And that's been my schedule for the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
So if it's a weekend, it's a weekend, right? And I mean, that way, both me and my wife are pretty boring people. We do normal stuff, I swim and I play pickleball. My wife does her yoga, and then we sometimes kind of cook together, and we are movie buffs.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Definitely have to see something, however ridiculous the content is. And we have our own, our siblings are staying close by, so we go there, and sometimes we kind of meet our friends. And again, when we speak, we don't speak about stocks. We don't speak about we only, and since we also kind of listen to a lot of music, we speak about that. It's a pretty normal. We don't party hard, but it's a very normal, from an outside world, it's a very boring life, but that's what we enjoy.
Yeah. You did mention about music at the beginning of the interview. When you were young, do you still pursue the passion? Are you?
I still kind of. I'm musically trained for 2 decades.
Wonderful.
I perform, and then career took over, but music has never taken a back seat. I listen to music at least an hour every day.
Is it Indian classical? South Indian?
Carnatic classical.
Okay.
And then I listen to music 1 hour a day when I'm in the office. It goes on. That keeps me happy, because that clearly is something that I love to do. And then I hum here and there whenever I know friends come over and stuff like that.
Absolutely. On that very, very positive, optimistic, and I would definitely say that life, as you rightly mentioned in the beginning, it teaches you at every stage of life. And the more early in life you go through the rigmarole and the pain, I guess it becomes a lot more easy to withstand the tensions and the challenges, and then you come up with it. And I think no better example than you, Kalyan, and your siblings. And of course, big thanks, I'm sure, it's to your parents. That's where the gratitude is all about, right? Many, many thanks, Kalyan, for being on this podcast, The Sound of Money, and I'm really happy to have you as a guest. I'm sure you're going to add a lot of value there beyond the money and finance. That's not about it, right? Sound of Money is, yes, there is money, but what's the thing, the ecosystem around how we make our life a lot more better. Thanks once again for being on.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Santosh. Thank you. It was great having you. Thank you. Bye.
Most welcome. And well, with that, we come to the end of this amazing episode of The Sound of Money with me, Santosh Tirud, and my guest, Mr. Kalyanaraman. Thank you for being on this podcast. Bye-bye.